Hello everyone, my name's Maria and I'm here to show you how to tune your violin. If you've just started out playing the violin, or maybe you need a refresher on some of the basics of the instrument, we're going to go over a few terms and concepts to remember while you're tuning. If you're ready to jump right into tuning with the fine tuners, you can go to my fine tuners video. As a disclaimer, I do want to say that if you're starting to learn the violin or viola, there's no substitute for a teacher who can work with you one-on-one, whether online or in person. You'll really need some individual attention when you're first starting out to make sure you develop the proper habits. However, if you only see your teacher once a week, or maybe you're learning in school and you're on a school break, videos like this are a good way to reinforce what you do learn in lessons and serve as helpful reminders. With that said, let's get right into it. A few parts of the violin I will mention in this series of videos include the tailpiece, the fine tuners, the shoulders, the scroll, the pegs, also called the tuning pegs, and the strings. Let's start with reviewing the names of the strings on the violin. They each have a different note or pitch. Pitch refers to the highness or lowness of a note. So this is a higher pitch than this. As a violinist, I really encourage you to get comfortable with using your voice either to sing or to hum, even if you don't consider yourself a singer or a vocalist. It will really help you physically feel and understand pitch by just feeling the vibrations in your vocal cords. Today we're going to start with the thickest string, which is also the lowest pitch, G. The strings go from lowest to highest, G, D, A, and E. E is the highest string, and as you can see, it's very thin. We say that the strings of the violin and the viola and the cello are tuned in fifths. That's because if I start with A, for example, and go through the notes in the musical alphabet, where A is 1, the fifth note I get to is E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, D, E. Remember that the musical alphabet only has 7 letters and it repeats itself. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. So if I start with D and count up 5 notes, remember D is 1, D, E, F, G, and after G comes A. So 5 notes from D to A. Same thing if I start from G. G is 1, G, then A, B, C, D. 5 notes between G and D. 5 notes between D and A. 5 notes between A and E. So this is why we say the violin is tuned in fifths. You might also have heard people count the notes going up using solfege or solfeggio. These are the names or syllables given to notes you hear, like in the song Do, Re, Mi from The Sound of Music. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. From D to A, for example, we can sing Do, re, mi, fa, sol, so, do, do, so. Now let's try it backwards. So, fa, mi, re, do, so, do. It's going to be the same pattern if we start on G, but now our do is going to be lower. Do, re, mi, fa, so. Note that I'm using what's called movable do, which is commonly used to teach ear training in the US. If you're watching from somewhere else, you may be more familiar with fixed do, so just realize that this will be a little bit different. The interval between do and so is called a fifth, or a perfect fifth, due to that distance of 5 notes. There are lots of songs that you might know that use this interval of a perfect fifth. One example is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Another example is the opening theme from Star Wars, or the Superman theme, or the Avengers theme, or the tune that the guards of the Wicked Witch of the West hum in the movie The Wizard of Oz. Maybe you recognize it from some other tunes, so if you know a song that uses a perfect fifth, let me know in the comments. The more you can easily identify this interval whenever it comes up, the easier it will be to tune your violin, viola, or cello. A few other concepts I want to go over. First, remember that when we're tuning, we're trying to match our violin strings to a pitch that we get from a pitch source, like an electronic tuner, or a tuning fork. If our violin string is too low, we say that we're too flat. If the violin string sounds too high, we say that we are too sharp. If our sound is flat or too low, that means that we want to make it higher so it can be in tune. We do this by tightening the string. If it helps, you can try to visualize a rubber band and think of how when you stretch it out, the sound gets a little higher pitched, and when it's looser, it gets lower pitched. So if our sound is too sharp, that means that we want to make it lower. We do this by loosening the string. It might help to think of a sentence like, if I need to lower it, I need to loosen it. I also make sure all of my students are familiar with the phrase righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. This applies to anything that has a turning or screwing in mechanism, and the violin tuners are no different. When you need to tighten a string to make it higher, turn it to the right. That means when your violin is facing you, or when it's in playing position, you need to turn the fine tuner towards your right shoulder, also known as the clockwise direction. If you need to loosen a string, find the fine tuner and turn it towards your left shoulder, or counterclockwise. Finally, it's important to know how to properly care for your violin so that you can avoid any tuning problems in the first place. The biggest things that affect tuning, or intonation, are temperature and humidity. The violin is made out of wood, so it responds a lot to the weather. The main rules to follow are: never leave your violin outside or in a car for a long period of time. At home, make sure it's stored in a spot away from doors and windows where there aren't many changes in temperature or humidity. You also want to make sure that you're always handling your instrument carefully. If you bump into something, especially with the pegs, it can cause the pegs to move and the strings to go out of tune. Always put your instrument back in your case when you're finished playing it. Here are a few free tuning apps I recommend to help you out with your tuning at home. First, if you don't own a keyboard, you can download a keyboard app on your phone. Just search "The Piano" in the App Store. You can play the notes of the open strings. A4, E5, D4, and G3. I also recommend the free app Tuner Lite by PiaScore. And with that, we've come to the end of our review. Did I leave anything out, or do you still have any questions? Let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like me to go over in a future video. And if this review helped you, I'd appreciate if you could give this video a like. Now that you have a grasp of some of the basic concepts involved, you can head over to my next video where I'll show you how to tune using the fine tuners. Thanks, and happy practicing!